So without much further ado, I will ask Professor Jean Dubousset to come up to the podium and give us a bit of this magic and the cumulative experience that he has accomplished in terms of trying to see how we are actually not just one or two dimensional, but actually three-dimensional living and breathing individuals. And the harmony of the spine and the beauty of it is no better expressed than through the master himself, Professor Dubousset. Jean, it's an honor.
Thank you so much. Good morning to everybody. You gave me too much compliment for me and my wife. And I just say that I want to thank so much the organizing committee to invite me again here. I was so surprised to be invited again. So, and the word I've heard this morning about that, I cannot tell you how I was honored. Too many honors for me, too many honors. I just look on the X-rays on another way and was looking that X-ray are only Chinese shadow of the reality, and nothing else. When you have understood this, you have understood 3D, obviously. So I have to push where? Which? Yeah. Because I am not a good expert in electronics and all these things. This way? Okay.
And if you want to go back?
Back. Okay, good. Thank you. So last year in same room, I present my personal thought about the spine and invite people to not confuse 3D alignment and 3D balance, because alignment is something static, but balance, much more important, is dynamic. And this year, I will do some complement. Scoliosis and spinal deformity, you have two different entities that I call the developmental, that I call ascending deformity, because started in childhood. And the primum movens is the worsening torsion with growth, secondary to a genetic, neurological, probably lying in the brain about this organization of the human posture, bipedal human posture. And if you look to the reconstruction, and if you look the horizontal plane, for me, scoliosis is an horizontal plane deformity. And it is evident when you see the view from the top. But the second type, you know very well, is the scoliosis appeared at the adulthood, developed in adult age, or secondary to the first deformity that was done during growth. But the primum movens is the second group, is the disc degeneration that give a cascade, discogenic cascade, still in the horizontal plane. As you can see, this collapsing of the spinal etament. It is why I call this descending deformity, because the other was ascending deformity. Why this horizontal plane is so important? Because during walking and any movement, this horizontal plane gives you a smooth adaptation of the entire skeleton regarding gravity and motion. And this is very poorly documented and a little bit ignored by many orthopedic surgeons, but better understood by the people from orthosis and prosthesis people, yes. EOS imaging system that we designed in conjunction with all the team in Paris of the biomechanical engineers and thanks to Georges Charpak that came to us to demonstrate that we can get a good picture of the skeleton with very low dose radiation. It is why we finally designed this device that is expanding slowly, but expanding all over the world, because it will give you the 2D postural alignment, but also the 3D surfacic reconstruction with a very, very little dose of X-ray, because you know that X-ray are dangerous if you use it too much, especially with CT scan that give you a lot of radiation. So with this device, we have much reduced dose, and the engineer in physics are still improving the system, dropping down more and more the amount of radiation. So this horizontal plane projection is so informative, but it is not understood and still and used by the clinician. But if you look precisely, you see not only the pelvis, the pelvic vertebra that is below, but you see the piling up of all the spine, and you can measure everything, vertebra by vertebra, or part of vertebra. Each vertebra can be analyzed separately, and you see what happened on the AP, on the sagittal, and the horizontal plane at the same thing. But of course, it is a little bit difficult to understand, because you see that EOS imaging gave multiple applications. Especially this view from the top will demonstrate you that we have designed with ENSAM engineer in Paris. ENSAM is biomechanical department, to make at the first shot, when you see the first mild scoliosis, we are able now to, with a very, very big approximation, to say this curve will progress, even if it is 10-degree curve, as you see here, 10-degree curve. But look at the upper part. This at the upper part here. I don't know how to here. You see at the upper part the difference in between the one that will progress and the one that will not progress. When you see the AP view, you don't make so big difference, but when you see the view from the top, you see the difference. And the difference is the horizontal plane. But you can see with that device, you can say brace evaluation without brace, and you see that with the brace, you are still imbalanced and still flattening of the skeleton. You can see also for surgical evaluation, and because when you see the X-ray, you are addicted to see the pedicle screw, your instruments, but in reality, it's not that part that is important. The important part is the one that is not instrumented. It is the free parts that allow you to get this possibility of adaptation, compensation. And of course, now we are able to match the external envelope that is very well seen on this device and the center of gravity, because mass, volume, and motion, in my opinion, are much more important than the angle and something like that. Look, for example, this cob angle, 12 degree, research 1-2. The severity index is 0.9. That is progressive. She will progress. Why you don't do no treatment at that time? Of course, you wait. Cob now research sign came 4-5. Cob reached 25 degrees. And why you don't do treatment? Criterion SRS, no treatment. Why? It is not clear, not good in my opinion. If you look precisely here to these two, one at research 1, one at research 4, what difference? You see the difference of the angle, but it is not. No, the problem is to see the soft tissue. Look at the soft tissue. The soft tissue, you see very well something that for the future is not good. The junction that it is in the slide named the junction at the junction. You know why? Because you don't know very well the maturation of the soft tissue. We know very well maturation of cartilage, of bone, but we know nothing, almost nothing, about maturation of the soft tissue, ligaments, capsule, and so on. And remember why this junction is so important. Because you know very well that this example is typical. When you see this opposite direction of the discal widening above and below the vertebra is unstable, and this happens so frequently, especially in the adult people. So the gravity and the torsion can occur at any level of the spine. And when you have this scissoring effect of soft tissue, it is an horizontal plane problem. Yes, of course. Maturation of cartilage, bone, very well known, very little known about the soft tissue, connective, elective tissue, ligament, capsule, disc. A little bit better for aging. We have some idea about the degenerations of the disc space, but not so well about the cartilage ligament. And if you look at that, something is very important. You know here, my resident, Stefan Wolf, in 1985, I pushed the treatment of the lumbar scoliosis after research 3 and 4, because I was thinking that this treatment very late was giving something for the soft tissue. And he proved at that time that with a brace treatment for this type of curve, efficacy was proven. 5 degree improved and maintained. And when I was in Japan last year, I was very surprised to see at the Medical University of Saitama the confirmation of this hypothesis, because the patients they treat, 15 on 17 patients treated after research 3 or 4, improved 6 degrees, maintained with 3-year follow-up. So this is a proof that soft tissue has something to do, and that basic science, clinical research must continue to understand better that part. Another 3D perspective for bracing for the future, in my mind. We must go from pushing, all braces are pushing on the hump and spine, and we must go from this concept to the reverse one, pulling on ribs and spine through proper design and material, especially with carbon, and with the patient proper energy coming from breathing. And if we can, I don't know how to put this, probably there is a movie, but I don't know if it works for this brace. I don't know how to push. It's pushing. You see. You will see this brace open on the back, and you see. And you see how it works. You see on the back, you see something, almost nothing. But if you look from the top, horizontal plane, you see what happened. The lordosis is changed in kyphosis, you see, only by breathing. And you see here on the reconstruction that we are closing to reproduce the normality. So it is something important that we have in mind. And if we come back with very, very ancient experiment, Lewis Serre, 1877, he took a specimen, put in a frame, and attach, you see, horizontally attached with elastic band from the frame to both sides of the spinous processes and of the vertebra. And in the middle of the canal, he put a brass rod, flexible brass rod. And when he were pushing on the brass rod, the horizontal forces and torsional effect reserve. The consequence, pulling is away to bring correction and not pushing. And my personal perspective for indication for treatment of idiopathic scoliosis is the early detection, the earliest as possible. Clinical detection, pictures are okay, but we need to have reliable and measured data. And this can be confirmed very, very easily with a 3D optical screening with no invasion, no X-ray, screening, getting difference between the structural and postural curve. And I found that in Novosibirsk in Russia, where they have a very good device to make the difference in between the postural and the structural. And this was proved on the comparison with X-ray to be sure that is was there. So, because I show you with only one EOS low-dose X-ray, with a 3D reconstruction, you measure the severity index assessment for the structural curve. And you see these two examples of 10-degree curve, 3D reconstruction with EOS imaging. You see very well the importance of the top view. And this was 90% reliability. And this is done on such a way. You took the one X-ray, and you measure as well the torsion, the curb angle, the apical axial rotation, and the intervertebral rotation. And you have the severity index. If you are below 0.4, no progressive. If you are above, progressive in all the cases. So treatment will be to treat as soon as possible, even for 10 degrees, 15-degree curb angle, because in all series of the treatment, whatever brace, the result of was exactly at the end the same deformity as the initial. So waiting for progression is wasted time. So it's necessary to treat. And for the follow-up, of course, less and less X-ray, but only maximum evaluation with optical 3D ways only. Why? Because X-ray are too many X-ray dangerous for a growing child and a young person. And so avoid, in my opinion, this 3D CT reconstruction in young people just to get a nice picture. Because if you look to this work that was done by Australian people, the references are listed here, you see that for a child that had a CT scan of the thorax or of the abdomen during childhood or early age have a lot of more chance to develop cancer disease than the other, induced by the X-ray. So to simplify the 3D vision with EOS imaging and measurement of 3D horizontal plane projection, one of my residents went with me some years in France, Tamasiles from Hungary, designed the projected vertebral vector. So you see simplification of this view from the top only by a vector 3D that was designed as it is written here. And you see very well the surgical correction, for example, of two lengthy one curve. You see the difference. It is not the same at the beginning, are still lengthy. And you see at the end, much more close to this AP, very well balanced sagittal alignment, but not the same, you see. At the X-ray look the same, but on the reconstruction is not the same. You see, the first one is much pulled backward, and the first one, it's almost perfectly aligned. So it is why this man took more than 300 cases of Lenke 1 curve, and by reclassify this Lenke 1 curve according the horizontal projection, he found very different. You see, the very different. So if my friend Larry was there, I will told him, Larry, you have to add an horizontal modifier to your classification. That is something important. Another point that was not very well understood for the 3D, it was the philosophy and strategy of the CD instrumentation. Of course, No post-op cast and brace, very well understood. But to determine the selective strategic point of fixation of the instrument to correct only the curb angle by simultaneously the sagittal alignment as the horizontal plane with the best final harmonious way, because you see the rotation of the principle of the rotation of the rod, but you see this drawing that is just in the middle. I draw this in 83, and it is so important to have this motion here and there. It is depicted only on sagittal plane, but of course it happened in the 3 dimension. And this is the future. It is really the future lies in this possibility of motion adaptation of the remain free. And the 3D computer simulation of alternative strategy. Everybody in North America know Virginie Lafarge and Frank Schwab, because they have developed a lot of system measuring about angle, formula. But Virginie Lafarge did this thesis in ENSAM Paris in 1999, and I was director of this thesis. And she demonstrated very well this philosophy by only changing one level in this case. Instead of stopping L1, you stop L2. This changing only one level. In the first case, you have an harmonious alignment at the end, and at the end, a not harmonious alignment. And on the sagittal plane, it is typical. Only one level more, and you finish with a loss of the lumbar lordosis, no harmony. And this is an important point. An important word must be for me emphasized in the orthopedic language to balance with the gold standard curb angle. It is harmony. What is harmony? Harmony in music is the concordance and agreement between the different parts of a tune. A real rule of physics, the contrary is discordance of a sound. And pictorial art, of course, it is also accordance of the arrangement successive color, contrary of clashing of the color. So we must think. It is difficult to classify because it's subjective, variable according education, tradition, everything. But we must think about that. Human is harmony, as well for static posture as is for dynamic activity. What is harmony for a body? It's a good and pleasant adjustment of various parts: size, shape, weight, alignment, and movement. Don't forget movement. You see here, Paul Belug was professor of anatomy at the School of Art just before war. And in his book was very clearly defined the harmony and shape and movement. Harmony of the movement is the right distribution of the masses of the body. You don't speak about angles. Masses of the body, cephalic, thoracic, abdominal, pelvic, hanging above the lower limb on the movement. Subsequently, is observed for small, large, smooth, or wrinkled people, heavy or light, well-aligned, exceptionally mal-aligned, and fluid and balanced movement. For the next decade, in my mind, harmony must be the goal of the treatment of spinal deformity, and not only the curb angle. And best example of this concept is demonstrated by the so frequent PGK after instrumentation. I've seen on the program that you will study very well this problem here. And it is not a question of hook, screw, wire. It's a question of local balance of the cephalic vertebra. As you know, I describe the cephalic vertebra, that is the entire head, and the pelvic vertebra, the entire pelvis. And a clear computation of the 3D concept of the chain of balance, of course, is necessary. It's that I gave you last year, I think so, here. And now you see in the PGK, you must have the double cone of economy concept, because the kyphosing stresses of each cone are added. So, for example, on the cone of economy of the body that you see on the lower part of this schematic drawing, you have a rigid spine, no possibility of compensation. So all the upper part has the same role of cone of economy of the cephalic vertebra on the volume, the mass, on the moment. That means movement, of course. And one of my friends, Dick Gross, get an approach very interesting. He approached the PGK through prevention of this phenomenon. Instead of attaching the devices and the instruments on the skeleton of the spine, he attached on the skeleton of the ribs laterally. And the fixation of the rib was much better. And he has even a 7-year follow-up on some cases that he showed me very clearly. So think about that. Why he got this? Because when you are looking for that, you must not only include the head and the cephalic vertebra, but also the shoulder and all the masses of the upper part of the skeleton. Is this alignment correct? Is the spine harmonious? If you look only on the metal, you say perhaps not so bad. You measure the kyphosis. Oh yes, but from where to where? But in reality, when you look very, very clearly, you see that on this patient, pelvic obliquity is evident on the frontal plane. L1, L2 disc, no lordosis. And you have a sudden junctional lordosis in L2-3. It is not so harmonious. This is important. And you see, for both questions, you can address spinal evaluation on a small X-ray like that, small stamp X-ray that I call postmark stamp X-ray. You need full body, low dose, of course, and you need 3D visual and optical external evaluation during movement. When I was in Miami, I was invited by my friend Harry Schuffelberger one time in 2011. I introduced this concept that I call the spine like a statue. It is a very high risk, because on such place you have only cervicothoracic motion and the lumbosacral motion, you have hip motion and nothing else. And you have hip pelvic junction failure and proximal junctional kyphosis. And look on the right side of the slide. When you put an acute lumbar excessive lordosis, it is why the work of Virginie Lafage moving, checking about the incidence angle regarding the lumbar lordosis is give you a number. If it helps you to add. But if you do an excessive lumbar lordosis, you have retroversion of the upper part of the spine and automatic PGK, of course. So this important principle that I wrote many years ago with my friend Alain Di Meglio, we are working very close together. And the most important part is not the fused part, is the unfused part, left free above and below. And harmony and function will be the goal. And we have a straight spine, even if you have a remaining scoliosis, but finally when it is fused, it is like a tibia. Even inside the tibia, you have distorted, so this is important. So harmony is really the goal. When I was starting CD instrumentation, Yves Cottrell says we have to reach 0 degree correction, 0 degree final angle of the thoracic area. We reached this final angle, but look, it was not so good. Harmony was not good. You see the imbalance of the malalignment of the shoulders. You see straight spine on the AP, but straight also, too much straight on the sagittal. It was not good. I prefer this case when, despite a mild AP residual curve, and sagittal and transverse are optimum. And you see the different pre-op and post-op. At that time, I was doing casting, pre-op casting, molding of the deformity to try to approach better the 3D correction. And you see 30 years for follow-up, very good. So screw everywhere is a new habit. Now we do screw everywhere. And is this okay? No, it's not good. For me, it's not a good way. Why instrument so high? It was not necessary. Finally, screw everywhere. Don't prevent for basic rule for instrumentation. Why stop on L1? It is too low. This produces lumbar malalignment and some sequelae. Now, the danger is loss of static and mostly dynamic harmony of the body. And the real advantage, not yet demonstrated in any presentation I heard about hybrid in instrumentation. This is a recent case that I observe in my country, Lenke 1A. And you see it's post-operative severe malalignment. Why so high instrument? Don't need that. Post-op clear increase of flat back, no harmony, because he say perhaps it will have a PGK. No, it's not question. So for spinal deformity, the era of the 3D static angle become for me outdated. It is necessary now to consider and reason with mass, volume, moment, movement. A lot of work now in the future in the brain of the young surgeons that they are, and the engineer about that. Because we know very well the amount of the body weight, percent of the body weight for the cephalic vertebra, for each part of the body, for the trunk. And for me, the dynamic balance in the space is the key for the longevity of the functional unit of the spine. Even spinal deformity can be harmonious as for external aspect, as for X-ray. It is an harmonious spine, even with this deformity. This spine is not straight, but perfectly harmonious, and you see with long time follow-up. And the spinal score changed a lot for 49, 92. And the philosophy of CDI, it is a research of harmony, not the research of the angle, Cobb angle. And you see the 3D schematic reconstruction and the molding cast pre-op and post-op long term. The spine is straight that I show you, but not harmonious, and the spinal score 47 and after 49. So not big change, not big change. And this one, you see a little bit better, but not perfect. It was severe at the beginning, 24, and post-op 64. This one, you see with anterior, pre-op, very big improvement in the spinal score. And what's spinal score? It's the evaluation of the result not only based on objective, based only on objective measurements, 3D anatomy, morphology, and 3D balance, spinal dynamic balance of the body. We exclude self-image, pain, function, but there are too much psychological environment. So we use this tentative of anatomical evaluation. When you see the frontal, the sagittal, the horizontal, it is 50 points for that. But also static balance, 20 points, and dynamic balance, 30 points. So total point. So you see here, for example, the way. Coupling EOS imaging with 3D motion analysis is a good research tool. And of course, may reach the goal to determine for degenerative spine, very important because this predicts the proper timing of surgery. When you see very well that for an old person, he can bend forward. Yes, the difficulty is to have extension. If you measure this in 3D, regularly, you can pick up the time when it is time to do something and not wait to be completely unbalanced. But of course, this lab work that is done in many places now Of course, in your practical day clinic, for me, I use a very objective, simple, reproducible, easy to quantify functional measurement with a simple chronometer. Speed of walking, 5 meters straight, forward, backward. Speed I need to climb 3 stairs, no more, and to go down. And the most discriminant for me is speed and ease to squat and get up. And I did on myself, and you see very big difference with the years for this discriminant. And of course, never forget speed I need to walk by speaking with the telephone. Because when you do that, you are not thinking, you are standing and walking, balancing, but it's your cognitive function that are evaluated with that. And this, for me, a measure pre and post is very important. Harmony for spine requires 3D smooth alignment according weight, height, acceptable arrangement of successive masses of the body from feet to head, and 3D static balance within the small cone of economy, but a 3D motion within normal functional basic performance. We are far for the gold standard Cobb angle, and this is my message. And because you find, I don't know how you did that to find in this agenda, me in my home doing stained glasses. This is one of the last stained glass I gave to my pupil in Beirut, Ismat Ghanem and Khalil Karat. It is a stained glass that I did from the wildflower along the road in my countryside in Auvergne. And this can be from time to time also, even distorted, a source of harmony. Thank you.